Welcome to the Press One for Nick podcast. My name is Nick Glimsdahl. My guest this week is Risa Lovell. She is the Director of Property and Casualty of Customer Service at Farnborough Insurance of Michigan. She's a seasoned leader with 2 decades of experience who focuses on coaching and developing others. Risa, welcome to the Press One for Nick podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Nick. I'm excited to be here.
You are welcome. So the first question I ask every single guest at the very beginning is, what's one thing people might not know about you?
So I was thinking about this, and one thing that I think is interesting is I went to culinary school. So I definitely work in, insurance and in business now, but I thought my trajectory was going to be in the culinary restaurant industry. But what's really cool about that, I think too, is number one, I learned how to cook. Like that's just a life skill that you need anyway. But number two, hospitality is hospitality no matter what industry. And I really feel like that's helped me and that's helped cross over from a customer experience perspective into the insurance world.
So I guess 2 questions from that is when it comes to hospitality, as a culinary expert, I'm gonna say if you can make one meal that is your last meal, what would you make?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Or maybe what's your meal that everybody raves about?
Probably my manicotti. So it's like stuffed shells. I still like, even though I went to culinary school, I eat like a 12-year-old, like chicken nuggets, and like that's just still my thing.
Amazing. But they are really fancy chicken nuggets.
I mean, they are, and I make some fancy dipping sauces to go with them. So it's like, adult level.
So hospitality, when it comes to customer experience, as you went through that journey of getting your culinary degree, how much did they focus on the customer experience or the journey or the guest experience?
Oh, wow. That was a huge piece of our focus. So part of our curriculum, you're in the classroom learning health and safety and some business philosophies, but there was a large portion of our curriculum where we were actually running a restaurant during the day and in the evening. So you did a rotation where you were back of the house staff actually preparing the food, and you ran through all the different stations, and then front of the house where you're serving and making tips just like you would out in the real world. But it was an upscale restaurant, so it was very customer focused.
Love that. Yeah, there's so many parallels between I had the opportunity to interview Horst, who obviously ran the Ritz-Carlton, and he was just talking about the importance of his experience of serving the guest, and the guest is first, and providing $2,000 per day per employee to wow them or exceed expectations or deliver and to make things right. So cool that you are now transitioning that to the experience. So you recently got a new role as the Director of Property and Casualty Customer Service. So you moved from marketing to service. One thing that when we talked about this prior, and it kind of stunned me a little bit, and which is bringing it up to this next question, is what made you start planning this plan or this trajectory 2 years out? That's 24 months. I'm not very good at math, but I'm pretty good at adding a couple months. But 24 months out, what was the goal, or why did you start planning that far out?
No, that's a great question. So when I came into this organization and I started working in marketing, my role was primarily to support our new agents. Because of my contact center background, I was actually able to develop an after hours contact center. So after traditional business hours, we were an extension of our agents' offices and serviced customers directly. And then we started the live chat piece. So this was separate from our customer service traditional team. And in that process, talking with new agents, having some contact with their clients, seeing what kind of calls were coming through, what kind of chats, and getting feedback from our customers, it became apparent to me that there was a disconnect. Customers were not able to holistically receive service. They'd have to call one area for one thing and another area for another. So I was thinking, gosh, if I was queen for a day, what would I do? How would I do customer service at Farm Bureau? And I started mapping it out because I figured someday I'd have the opportunity. And that opportunity did finally present itself. So I'm excited to see that vision come to reality.
So she's now the Queen Director of Property and Casualty Customer Service.
Sure.
That is the official title for anybody who can't see her on video. She's wearing a crown right now. It's kind of a big deal.
My cloak, yeah, you know.
It says on the back of her cloak, Queen every day.
Yes.
Like it. So when it comes to onboarding an organization or onboarding a employee, and I think that's where it all starts. Obviously, it starts prior, and organizations are searching, or employees or prospects are searching to work for your organization. But I think one where people kind of tend to sift through it is like, hey, we already got this employee. We signed them up. Let's get them through the process as quick as possible, and let's shoot them out the end of that on board and get them working and start making money for us. But what does that look like from your perspective, and maybe how have you changed that onboarding and training process?
Sure. So organizationally, we have a program we call Kickstart, and every new employee goes through it. It's 5 different sessions, usually 5 consecutive Mondays, where they learn about just Michigan Farm Bureau, our culture. They actually go on a farm visit because agriculture is definitely the cornerstone of our organization. And for some people, me included, that was my first time ever on a dairy farm. So super cool to get you connected to our corporate culture. But in my department, when I came into the position, we had a pretty high rate of turnover. And so we really started looking at training and onboarding because people weren't staying there very long. And so we spent the better part of, I'd say, the fourth quarter of 2021 and the first half of 2022 revamping our process completely. We actually brought in 2 formal trainers. We have 2 formal training positions we did not have before. And we have this very stringent, like 3-week new hire training process. And we've really looked at it under a microscope, and we've thought very intentionally about every step of the way. So in that first 3 weeks, our new hires, they get just that basic information. How do you do the job? They get a lot of time with their leadership. I come in and spend time with them individually, just so they get to know me. We do side-by-side training with some of our existing customer service team members, just so they have an understanding of what it is that I'm getting into. They get exposed pretty early directly to phone calls so that they can start asking questions. We are very cognizant of different learning styles. So we try to hit that like visual, audio, kinetic, making sure that people are engaged in learning the way that works for them.
So I think it's important that you're very purposeful with the training and with the way that people learn. I'm a very hands-on learner, and so if somebody just said, "Go listen to 14 hours of an audio or read this book," I'd be like, I don't know if this is for me. I'm just going to sift through it. But if it's somebody in front of the class, or even if it's maybe even video, it's much more. It's easier for me to learn, and so I appreciate the ways that you're doing that. One of the other things that you guys do as an organization is, and I don't think a lot of people do inside specifically customer service, is people are like, oh, if you're a customer service, you're always going to be in customer service, and you're going to be a great customer service rep, or you're going to be a manager of customer service. You mentioned that you create a formal career path for your team. Maybe talk about that real quick.
Yeah, absolutely. So our team, we're all one group, but we have different focuses. So we have different tracks that you can follow, if you will. So we have a very service focused area of our team. They're focused on our agents and our external customers. And then we have a portion of our team that are involved in corporate projects, reporting, and like system defects, things like that. So there's 2 different ways that you can go. Like if you really want to be like in people leadership, you probably want to go down that service path. If you're really interested in projects and more of a technical aspect, we send you down the other, we call it the support path. And along that journey, you're connecting with those different people, our business analysts and quality assurance analysts, for example, our project managers, you're going to get a lot of that exposure. And our goal is to develop our team to take those positions. It creates a little bit of a revolving door for us sometimes, but that's okay. I'd rather keep that talent in-house and then have that strong foundation of customer service and understanding how important our customers are to us, and then they take that with them to their next role.
So what do you think that does for the retention? Because people do see that path inside your organization.
I can tell you just from our numbers and our tracking, it's been huge. So when I first came into the department in 2021, our turnover rate was about 50%. Yeah, once our final numbers are in from 2022, I'm expecting that we've retained about 80% of our talent. So
A big
pretty
difference.
big. And I mean, people, they're going to leave the organization. That happens. That's okay. But what we're seeing for the most part is when people leave, they're moving on to bigger positions within the organization.
Yeah, what's the old analogy or the adage is what happens if I train them and they leave, and the other person's saying, well, what happens if I don't train them and they stay?
Right.
It's an interesting dilemma. So I'd rather train them and have them go to that next journey, and maybe they come back in 5 years even more prepared or ready to take that next leap, and they already are appreciative of your culture and the growth that you're at. So one of the things that you guys do, and I think it's interesting and a lot of organizations don't do, is when you post a job either on LinkedIn or Indeed or wherever else you guys post, is you guys have a salary range that you're showing. And I'm guessing that is that both internally and externally then?
It is. I would say even internally. So we have like an intranet, we call it the barnyard, which is kind of a fun, clever play on our farming background. But yeah, all the salary ranges are even posted out there on our HR portal. So you know every level and what's the midpoint, what's the beginning, what's the end. We're very transparent.
And what do you do? Is it internally? Do you have the opportunity to, let's say somebody wants to take that leap from where they are, maybe it's a different department or maybe a higher level than they currently are. Do they have the ability to shadow others or take a peek at what they're doing and how they do it, and maybe ask some additional questions to see if it might be a good fit?
Absolutely. So I would say 2 points to that. One, I always encourage my team, like, do what you're passionate about, do what you love, and the money will come. Because you do have the people who sometimes they're just chasing that dollar, and then they're applying for positions that they don't necessarily understand, and then they get in there and they're like, ooh, this is not worth it. This is not what I thought it was. So we definitely do a lot of shadowing. We encourage that, build that relationship with that other department before there's ever an opening, because it's genuine and that is truly what you want to do, and that's where you want to focus your career path.
Very cool. So one of the other things that we had talked about outside of the podcast here is when you took over, you saw an opportunity there was different departments that had different roles, different responsibilities, and different expertise that you needed to be trained on. And one of the initiatives that you completed is when you took over, you started cross-training your teams. What made you do that?
Yeah, so our goal coming into the department, what I brought with me was to make it easy for our customers and agents to do business with Farm Bureau. And like we talked about before, kind of what I was seeing when I was in marketing, the customer service team was primarily trained and focused on answering billing inquiries, which billing is incredibly important. But if a customer needed to make a change to their policy, like for example, I'm sitting at the dealership, I just bought a new vehicle, I need to switch that over. They couldn't do that because they didn't have a property and casualty license. So when I moved over from marketing, I brought my service team from marketing and we combined with customer service. And now our team is required to have a property and casualty license. So all of those people who were billing focused have acquired that license skill set, and the licensed team has acquired that billing skill set. So we've really become, internally, we call it a one-stop shop. So that way, when a customer calls us, like 93% of the time, we are able to assist them. It's drastically reduced the number of transfers, and it just provides a much better customer experience.
And how long did that take for everybody to get that PNC license?
We have been working on this for like 13 months because we had our team's about 55 people. And getting a license, especially in the state of Michigan, is not an easy task. Totally recognize that. So, we put everybody through training, we give them study time, and we give them a sufficient period of time to get that test taken and passed.
And how was that initially? How was that conversation where I'm guessing some people were like, Risa, that's not going to happen. I'm not going to do that. That's tests are not for me. I'll stick in this job for the next 10 years, but I just don't make me take a test. Like what was the conversations like at the beginning?
Yeah, so that was definitely difficult and something that I tried to approach very purposefully again and thinking about change management and the people part of change, because on one hand, I did not want the team to feel like I was coming in and saying that they were ever doing something wrong, because they weren't. They were doing a fantastic job. I just wanted to build on that and I wanted to see them grow to their fullest potential. So when we created the career path, that was part of it. As you obtain that license or you get that billing skill set, that allowed you to move up to the next level. So there was dollars associated with that. Your salary went up, your level went up, and you could kind of do it at your own pace. We didn't come in and say like, okay, everybody has 30 days to do this. It was like, hey, do you feel like you're ready? Do you want to be that trailblazer and lead the way? Or we had some people who are like, oh, I kind of want to wait and see. And so, okay, so we let them wait 6 to 9 months to do that. But all the while we talked about why it was important, what's in it for them, what's the risk if we don't do it. And through time, the people who maybe were skeptical in the beginning were able to see the benefits for the customers of being able to holistically have their needs serviced, but they also felt good because they didn't have to transfer. Like, doesn't that feel good to know that you can solve most any problem that comes your way? That gave them a lot of confidence.
It makes them all kings and queens with the cloaks that they get to have because they're like, I am
Absolutely.
empowered to solve this customer's problem. Let's do this. Yes, I can help you. Just think of the first 4 or 5 calls. It's like getting your license. I don't know if this is a great analogy or not. When you get your license, you're like, there's nobody in the car and I'm driving this by myself and I'm smiling. Why is not everybody else smiling around me? Because this is awesome. And I think the same is potentially true. And just thinking through that is you empower that person and they are now having that PNC license and they're like, man, this is kind of scary, but I actually can help you, Mr. or Mrs. Customer. And I'm excited. They hang up and they're fist bumping, high-fiving, air high-fiving each other to create that experience. And I'm guessing that when it comes to the customer experience, that also improved maybe retention or other things, right?
Absolutely. So last time I checked, which was about a week ago, our policy retention rate is at 90%, which is huge. So that tells me that the customers of Farm Bureau of Michigan appreciate all that, us and our agents are doing for them.
So what was it, let's say 5 years ago?
That's a great question. So I could not tell you the number off the top of my head without looking it up, but I can tell you that in the last, I would say 3 years, there have been huge initiatives around improving that retention rate. And that's between customer service, that would be our field force. And it's definitely paying dividends.
And what is, off the top of your head, do you know what the industry standard is?
I do not know off the top of my head what the industry standard is.
Well, yeah, I would assume that it's not 90%.
Yes.
And that was kind of my point is, I'm guessing it's closer to the 70%. I don't know. Anytime that I have an insurance, like I have a broker that comes and helps me out once a year and I have an insurance that I've had for a bit, but I also have them bounce and re-quote it every year to make sure that I'm getting the best plan for the highest quality plan that I want for my needs, but also at the best price. And sometimes, as you know, over the last couple of years, people will pay more for the product or service for a better experience. And so if people have that peace of mind for you guys, they're willing to maybe pay that premium than they would if they had to wait online, or if they weren't able to, they got transferred from one person to the next because they're like, oh, that's a great question. Let me transfer you to X department. So it's great that you guys are kind of focusing on that. As you guys are continuing to evolve and changing and delivering on the employee experience as that career growth, how are you trying to meet the needs of the customers? Because as you know, customers' needs and expectations are constantly changing.
Yes, and the pandemic just pushed fast forward on that. So, organizationally, our focus, like for everyone, is making it easy for our customers to do business with us. So in the coming years, we're working on implementing new updated payment methods, more self-service options, expanding our omni-channel approach. We're currently redoing our website right now. We're bringing in a new customer relation management tool, like a CRM software tool, which is going to be instrumental in helping us see our customers holistically and really understanding their journeys. And that's going to help us ensure that we can consistently exceed their expectations every time. But on top of that, we're setting this really strong foundation because I think the pandemic caught most all of us by surprise. So we're going to be ready, and we're going to be able to pivot a lot quicker based on our customers' needs, because we know that that's going to be ever changing.
Yeah, when it comes to the customer, if you're not consistently listening, pandemic or not, to what their needs are, their expectations, and looking at the survey or the what they're saying and what they're not saying, then it's hard to adapt or even beneficial, because sometimes organizations tend to say, hey, look at that sweet whiz bang technology or that amazing process, let's do that, instead of listening to the customer and saying, what do you guys actually need or want, both now and to the future. And so when it comes to the future, how do you think things are going to change to with the customer's expectations?
That's a good question. I think that customers really, they want to be able to do business with you how they want to do business. Some of them want that face-to-face brick and mortar. I want to sit down with somebody. Some people, they want to be able to do that business through your website, for example, or on their cell phone. So I think it's really just going to be catering to what is it that they want and how do they want to do business.
Yep. Meeting on the channel of their choice and reducing
Correct.
the effort along the way.
Yes.
Yeah. Very, very good. So, unfortunately, this is the last two questions.
Okay.
We can keep on coming, but so the first question I have for you is, what book or person in customer service or customer experience has influenced you the most in the past year?
Yeah, so I would say in the last year, Jeff Toyster. So his book, The Service Culture Handbook, was instrumental for me in helping create our service vision and creating that culture of employees who are obsessed with customer service. I felt a little bit overwhelmed probably in the beginning, and I was kind of looking for something like to help guide me. And I came across that book, and it was amazing. And then what was a cool little side story, I'm also in the customer experience management master's program at Michigan State University. And in my very first class, this was our textbook. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. I've already used this book. Like, I'm so excited. I kind of feel like I'm ahead of the game. And in the book, Jeff says, like, reach out to me. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna test this out, right? So I reached out to Jeff. I sent him an email and kind of told him my story. And he was like, hey, let's set up some time to talk. And we did. And like totally genuine and connected with me and helped supported me and wanted to know what we were learning in our class. And like, he sent me a signed copy of his new book, The Guaranteed Customer Experience. And we still actually stay in touch. So he's definitely been instrumental and influential for the last year for me in customer experience.
Very cool. Yeah, both of his books, is LinkedIn learning classes are awesome. Just a genuine human being. And at the very beginning of his books, for those who don't know, have his phone number in it. And he's like, if you don't have a great guaranteed experience, reach out to me and we'll make sure that is happening.
Mhm.
So appreciate that. Jeff's awesome. The last one I have for you, if you could leave a note to all customer service or customer experience professionals, it's going to hit everybody's desk Monday at 8 a.m. What would it say?
So that's huge. Yeah, so I guess I would say, we're the heart of the organization in customer service. I like to say to my team, we're the people. So it's our responsibility and privilege to be the voice of our customer and advocate for their needs. I say, be the change that you want to see and lean into your network. Customer service is not for the weak. So it's really important that we band together and we demand our seat at the table.
That was a mic drop moment right there. Right.
Thank you.
Just replay that, record it, and then send it to the masses. If that could hit everybody's desk Monday at 8 a.m., we'd be living in a better world right now.
Right. Everybody be focused on their customer.
There it is. Be absolutely obsessed. Be like Risa, the queen of customer service. It's great. Risa, what is the best way if people want to connect with you?
I'm on LinkedIn. They could also email me. I can give you my email address, or it's rlovell@fbinsmi.com. Yeah, feel free to reach out.
Great. Thank you so much for your time. And hey, best of luck on the success you guys will continue to have, and stay focused on the customer.
Thank you so much, Nick.